Hi, everyone. This is James from Disaster Survival Network. Today we have the pleasure of talking with Kermit, who has written some very, very unique prepper books. And actually they're coloring books, which you will, they're not coloring books, but they're more geared towards children and teaching children about prepping. Very, very interesting concept. I think it's a absolutely fantastic idea. Has a whole series of books, and I read through them, and they're fun for the adult also. Kermit, welcome to the show.
Hi, James. Thanks a lot. It's great to be here.
If you could tell us a little bit about your background and what was your why moment, and what made you decide. Well, first of all, what have you been involved in prepping? When you were younger and so forth.
I don't know that I would have called it prepping growing up. That's kind of a new term, but my dad always joked that if you gave me a roll of duct tape and a machete and some bamboo, I could build just about anything. So camping trips, I always had fun with that sort of idea. It just I grew up in a very rural area, so running through the woods and doing crazy things that we would call crazy today was just kind of normal for me. And so maybe not into prepping per se, but definitely kind of into figuring things out. MacGyver was my hero growing up. And so just that sort of thinking around the solution and figuring out alternative ways to do things was really kind of where I started out as a kid.
You know, what I'm finding with many of the people that we interview, there's one of two ways that people get into, and for lack of a better term, a preparedness lifestyle. And that's one, either they grew up with it, they grew up without, they grew up on a farm, or someone such as yourself where, you did the camping trips and you lived in a rural area. Or it was, the person got laid off, had a catastrophe in their life, and they had to do it as a survival type situation. So you grew up around the woods and enjoyed camping and so forth. Did you grow a garden or anything when you and your family were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember being out there with the tiller and growing with my parents, and I think that kind of self-sufficiency and you not pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but almost that mentality of a very rural, hardworking family as far as my dad goes, and my mom's been a public school teacher for 40 years now. So, yeah, that was very much part of it, in a very small rural community, gardening, did some canning, and I kind of got away from that a little bit when I went off to college in the Navy, and but didn't really forget those things, and kind of being prepared, trying to save up some money, have an emergency fund on hand, not get called off, plan for contingencies. That's kind of always been an attitude in some ways, but it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago that I guess I'd say the prepping bug got me and or bit me, and it kind of went from hey, we should kind of be prepared for the future type stuff to, holy cow, we should take this seriously and make it very intentful in our lifestyle as far as how we live. And I think that that's probably one of the things is people are either they just live it as a natural, they wouldn't call themselves a prepper. And then I think there's people that do it very intensely. And then there's people that just, they're just on the outer ends. There's really kind of divided into 3 different types. I would say. So I moved from the living a somewhat self-sustaining or self-sufficient lifestyle to, no kidding, I need to start looking into these different areas and getting skills on purpose as opposed to just kind of fluffing through life type thing.
Right. Yeah, it's I consider it a lifestyle, and it's fun. I'm ex-military also, and learned a little bit about it for more of a self-defense type situation. But about 5 years ago, had the proverbial pink slip hit me, and that's when I started getting serious about it. I'm very intrigued by your website and the books. And for the listeners, to find out more information, you can go to preparpeteandfriends.com. Again, that's preparpeteandfriends.com, and we will have the contact information in the write-up for this podcast, as well as his Facebook, Kermit's Facebook and Twitter. So you can contact him. Be sure to like his page, please, on Facebook. Okay, Kermit, can you tell us what was your inspiration for start writing the books, and which one did you write first?
Well, the inspiration I used to have on the bio that I kind of stumbled across the idea, which is probably a more accurate description. But basically, I had visions of grandeur of writing my own prepping novel, so to speak. One of the things that really kind of helped me engage the idea of prepping and being prepared was a book called Avalon, The Retreat, by an author, L. Michael Russin. And when I started to kind of try and write my own version, I had this scene of a character that has several kids, and he's traipsing through the woods trying to basically bug out to a safe location. And I thought to myself, how would my character prepare for this? Which led to, how would I prepare for this? How would I explain it to my kids? Because I do have 4 kids, all girls, and right now their ages are 12, 10, 8, and 5. And I kind of did what any person would say if I want to teach my kids something. I'd go to Amazon and buy a book. So went to Amazon, and oddly enough, there was absolutely nothing there for children. There were some books on prepping with kids, for preparing for kids, that kind of stuff, but there was nothing geared towards children as far as this is a book to help introduce them to the concept of prepping without scaring them. And I think that's one of the key things that we can do as parents, because we have a responsibility to that. So then I kind of moved into, had a time frame where I had some downtime, and I got to thinking, what would I do if I could do something? And in about 45 minutes, I developed the idea of Prepper Pete and an outline that contained so much basic info. It actually became 3 books out of that one outline. And it's since grown from then. We're up to 4 now. I still haven't done the 3rd book from that original outline. That's the Prepper Pete Gets Out of Dodge. But I have got about 20 more books outlined to get around to. I just, life gets in the way sometimes. But the first book that I wrote was actually called Prepper Pete Prepares, and it's an introduction to prepping for kids. It's a picture book type. It's aimed at very young, from as young as 2 or 3 years old up to the usually around the 8 or 9 year-old time frames when people kind of move away from it. But like you said, a lot of times I give it to people with kids, for the adults to learn the lesson of why they should prepare. And so,
right.
Yeah, so the first book, on Survival Blog, Avalanche Lily mentioned that it was wonderfully politically incorrect, and that was one of my highest compliments that could be paid, I think. And it just goes through and talks about how we have different reasons that people prepare. Everything from lights being out, which is something that could happen to anybody, to disaster striking, plague, alludes to an EMP, that sort of thing. And in kind of a fun way, allows parents to talk to their kids about different aspects of why they're doing what they're doing. And I didn't want to get too specific. I didn't want to get too scary, but I did want to provide enough for the parents to have a conversation. It's supposed to be a launching point, not the end-all, be-all. And I think it kind of achieved that. Some of the feedback or reviews that I get are, it took us an hour to make it through the book, and it's only like 30-some pages. But if you look at the pictures usually have, you can call them Easter eggs or details, whichever one. But there are certain tie-ins from the beginning to the back of the book, through the different books, a couple of little fun things that I like to do as well. And that first book really covers, a handful of reasons why we should prepare and get ready. And you can talk to your kids in a way that helps them understand why mom or dad do what they do, and it doesn't keep them awake at night. I don't know if you watched the show Doomsday Preppers when it used to come on National Geographic.
Oh, yes.
I always tell people, if you've seen that show, you've seen some great examples of how not to do it.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to kind of, I kind of made fun of that as I went through it, and so that's what I wanted to do. So Prepper Pete Prepares was the first book, and then it just kind of took a life of its own from there.
It's one of those ideas where there's probably about 30,000 preppers around the world saying, "Why didn't I think of that?" Because it's such a great idea. And I mean, I'm a marketing and logistics guy, and I can just see this not only going to families around the world. I can also see this being a great tool for homeschooling, because a high percentage of people in the preparedness lifestyle do homeschool their children. And I can really see this being a good tie-in. Have you contacted like the National Homeschooling Association or any organizations like that so far?
I haven't. I've sent dozens of copies out to different places, but I've mainly kind of focused on like prepping sites or preparedness vendors. Some of the products that I have in the book, I actually go and get permission to use live products. I want to provide resources that connect people. And yeah, you're right. I believe that homeschoolers tend to be a little bit more self-sufficient or, in that regard. Haven't contacted them directly, although we have been at several shows, gun shows, prepper expos, and we're slowly moving into some homeschool opportunity presentation like expo fair type things. But as far as like going to the Homeschooler Association, not quite there yet. I think it would probably go over better. I've had some elementary schools that have asked me to come speak to them about preparedness, but they're usually like, and if you want to bring the book that doesn't have guns in it,
right,
you can. And so, yeah.
That's the one I have sitting in front of me right now because I think that was going to be a key question. So the first book is Prepper Pete Prepares, and that basically talks about preparedness as a whole, kind of warms everybody up to the subject and why preparedness is an important part of life. There's a podcast I did yesterday, actually. I was talking to a gentleman, and we were talking about, people have life insurance. They have car insurance. They've got homeowners insurance. Well, being a prepper is basically the best form of life insurance you can have. Having that 90-day food supply, having that backup water, knowing how to grow a garden. So I really commend you that you're helping parents to start teaching children at a very young age. So it's kind of like the way you grew up. It's like it was just an everyday thing. So it's not a shock to the children that when they get older, and then they teach their children. It's just a way of life that they grew up with. So I think you really hit a home run here, and this is going to do very, very well. And we certainly will do everything we can to help get the word out for you about this, because this is important. The younger you get children involved with preparedness, and you make it fun for them, which is exactly what you've done. I had a good time reading them, and I think the better. Now, you mentioned the elementary schools, and as long as you don't bring something about guns, the reason why I specifically brought this one with me, the other three are sitting right beside me, but I think that this is really brilliant, and the gun safety that you teach in here, it's not scary. It's fun. You got cool pictures that the kids will consider fun, and I think you really did a great job on this. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your thought process of writing Gun of a Son?
Yeah, so Prepper Pete's Gun of a Son actually, so I've been in the military for A long time. I'm actually a reservist, and a while back I switched over. I'm a chaplain, so I'm not a gun-toting. We chaplains are non-combatants, and we do not carry guns at any time in the military. However, I've been around them, had one growing up, that sort of thing, and so when I got to this point that I really started taking preparedness serious, one of the things that you have to consider is security. And I was dealing with the issue of schools that were kind of like, oh, I can't believe there's a AR-15, or a long gun or a black gun in here, that kind of thing. And so I started, we homeschool, and I started taking gun safety seriously with regard to my kids from the standpoint of I went to purchase some firearms for self-defense and that sort of stuff. Wanted to teach safety to my children because I think that that's something that you should start at day one. And as I went through and organized the material to teach my own children, that's kind of where Gun of a Son came from. I found myself kind of coming across the same issues each time when I was teaching each kid. And, it got to the point that I had friends of mine that were like, hey, can we, and I could just go out my backyard and shoot in Virginia, fortunately, but I had people come in and saying, hey, can I bring my kid over for his birthday and you teach some gun safety, or can we come shoot and you teach some gun safety? And it wasn't that I was doing anything that wasn't available elsewhere. It's just that I kind of specialized towards the younger crowd. And there are some great programs out there for that, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't anything I thought that I could find at the time that really just kind of went through, no kidding, these are the steps to take for basic gun safety. And there's always more that could be out there, but the Gun of a Son kind of started with the treat, never keep, and Pete gives Charlie, his son, a gun for his birthday, so they go take a gun safety class together. And that's what the book kind of rolls through, is what they learned in this gun safety class. So it's not like an action story of something going on. It's more of a walking through gun safety with your kid. And my goal was for parents to be able to discuss this with their kids in any place, anytime, talk about it, understand it, get the kids familiar with it, prevent what I call the forbidden fruit syndrome with their kids, and allow them to kind of get the importance of guns across and gun safety across, or firearm safety, to their kids in a very easy manner. And so in doing so, then when they go up to the gun, then they have something to refer back to. And we had more stuff planned for the Gun of a Son book in the back, as far as like some blow-ups of guns, showing what the different parts are. But I really didn't want to confuse, parts of the gun with gun safety. And so we took those stuff out eventually. There's going to be a Gun of a Son 2 coming out that'll include that. But for now, this book is really just, if you want to teach your kids about gun safety, if you want to explain to them, don't go see one with your friends, don't go touch one. If you want to touch one, come ask an adult. And my kids know that that's the rule. If they want to see a gun or clean a gun or shoot a gun, all they got to do is ask. But this allows me to teach gun safety to kids anywhere, and has pictures of guns. Eddie Eagle's a great program, but it teaches whatever you do, don't touch a gun. I wanted to be able to teach people or kids, this is how you handle a gun safely, because knowledge is safety. Knowledge is power.
Excellent. Very, and you did a very, very good job of that.
Thank you.
What age group would you say would be good for specifically the Prepper Pete's Gun of a Son?
I would say that it's never too young to start.
Okay.
And so typically when kids are old enough to be listening to story time or to fun pictures and stuff, that's a good time to start teaching them. So I would have no problem reading any of the Prepper Pete books to a 3-year-old. I know some people that read it to their 2-year-old. It really, I think, starts to click and make sense with the 4 to 5 age range, as far as they can start to repeat back the rules. And, we simplify the first 4 rules of gun safety, or the cardinal rules, as people would call it, is treat, never keep. Treat every gun as if it's loaded. And never point a gun at something, or I've mentioned muzzle, but something you don't intend to shoot or destroy. Keep your gun on safety until you're ready to shoot, and keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. So those first, treat, never keep. It's kind of catchy. Kids can learn it. You can teach them the meaning as you go, and then the book goes through the rest of the stuff as far as always checking to make sure it's empty. Don't rush. Brass. Some people are familiar with that. How to aim, keep it in a safe, and then there's a gun contract at the end, gun safety contract for kids to sign with their parents, and they can download that off the website. They can make up their own. But yeah, there's never too young of an age to start teaching safety.
There's a organization, I'm not sure if you've heard of them, because Vincent and I go to Prepper Expos, and it's called Project Appleseed, and I can get you their okay, so you're familiar with them. This would be a great thing to present to them, and then because they deal with more of the 12 and older, 12, 13-year-old and older, but that would be a great segue into working with them, and they're also a great organization. Okay, so we talked about Prepper Pete's Gun of a Son, which I like the play on words, and then your next book, which I dig this one. It's Survivalist Sam Stocks Up. Can you tell us a little bit about that book and what was your idea for writing that one?
Yeah, so Survivalist Sam Stocks Up. Sam is a good friend of Prepper Pete. He's actually the instructor in the Gun of a Son book. And so the Prepper Pete universe, I guess as you would refer to it, or Prepper Pete and Friends universe, has some pretty cool stuff, and some of the future characters I think are going to be a blast. But Survivalist Sam is a survivalist is someone who stocks up supplies and learns skills for the future. So some people would call survivalist preppers the same. It's semantics probably to a lot of people, and that's okay. But Sam's just the kind of guy that, he focuses on the 4 B's of prepping for kids. And so the 4 B's from our perspective is beans, bullets, bandages, and barter. Now, if you've ever worked with Marines or military in some ways, you'll hear beans, bullets, bandages, and bad guys, and that's the way that you prioritize stuff that you're doing. And I originally had bad guys. I think there's still a picture of that old cover floating around. But I wanted to kind of focus on the more positive aspect of it, so we changed it to barter, and we just included the security bad guy aspect under the bullets. But Sam basically goes through and talks about, beans means you need to have clean water, plenty of food, you need to store it properly, learn to plant a garden, that sort of stuff from a self-sufficiency standpoint, and then you're canning food. And then the bullets goes through, the reloading, the protecting from bad guys, the fact that the Constitution makes sure that people can legally own guns, and then bandages kind of includes not only medical but different skills that people can learn. And I think that's one of the things that we fail to remember is that, you mentioned that, prepping's kind of a lifestyle, and I would agree. It's not an event. It's an attitude. It's a way of living. And sometimes that's just your critical thinking skills. Sometimes that's being able to do stuff. But Sam learns, medical class. He learns different things that he can use now in everyday life, but in a survivalist or prepper event, they would be very useful too, including like a big library, because knowledge is key, different skills. And then the last one's kind of barter as far as things that we take for granted now, and the book kind of focuses on toilet paper and knives, but just the little things that we take for granted, one day could become very valuable, and so we need to realize that those things are important, and those will be the barter items. So,
yeah, absolutely, and I'm really glad you put barter in there. In a past podcast, I was saying to the guest, it's like, we've become a very materialistic society. And, okay, so that's great. You got a Rolex. It's great. You got a Ferrari. Well, if a calamity does happen in the United States, let's say we go back into a depression, a serious depression. Well, you might very well be trading that Rolex for 4 loaves of bread and 4 cans of soup, quite frankly.
If you're lucky.
Exactly. I always say to people, well, can you eat it? Is it useful? Can you drink it? 3 days without water, the classic, 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. You'll be real skinny by the end of that 3 weeks. But I think we've become a very materialistic society, and also what I call the 7-Eleven society, where everybody's like, oh, well, I don't need to stock up. I can just go and go down to Wally World or 7-Eleven and pick up that loaf of bread and so forth. I've gone through, because of a winter, I'm in the Northeast, where the big shopping store, where the stores were bare, because the shelves were bare, rather, because the trucks couldn't get through. And so Survivalist Sam stocks up is a great idea. And again, if you can get the children involved early, and most importantly, make it fun for them. I see lessons for homeschooling in every one of these books. So I think that's very, very cool. And again, as soon as I saw these, Kermit, I was like, why didn't I think of that? It just makes sense, Now, your fourth book. Before we go on to your fourth book, I'd just like to tell the listeners that to get these books, again, it's preparpeteandfriends.com. Okay. Kermit also has a Facebook page and a Twitter, which, as I said, we'll list. Now, these are available for purchase in paper book at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and you also make them available via Kindle, which is very cool, because people can just download it, no wait, no freight, and they've got it immediately. So great distribution channels there. And now, can they order it directly from you, or is that something you're not doing at this point?
I do work. My publisher allows me to work with, as far as bulk orders or retailers. I'm able to do that.
Okay.
But typically, if people are buying, I ask that they go through Amazon. And there's a few reasons for that, but the main one is from a rankings perspective. I made the number one spot for children nonfiction for a little while on Kindle, and then the paperback's been in the top 10 several times, and as far as children and safety. And so I think there's something there. Every time I have any sort of exposure, like a podcast like this, or an interview, or mentioned on a blog, usually it's copies sell when people find out about it. So I would love to get to the point, every author's dream, get to the point that I could quit my day job and focus on this full time and just write a gazillion books. But the Amazon really helps. And the other thing that is tremendously helpful is not only sharing the link, obviously, but leaving reviews. I think that a lot of times people don't understand how vital and critical reviews are on sites like Amazon or Goodreads, and that's just because they impact how often Amazon shows those books. When you see the recommended list or something like that, those are like gold to authors. And so I am grateful for every copy that somebody sells. And I'll just say that any of your listeners, if they purchase the paperback on Amazon and they send me the order confirmation, I will send them a free ebook of that book. I'm happy to do something like that as far as for the people that are listening in.
Excellent. We appreciate that.
And we also have a drawing. The Facebook page is pretty complicated. It's facebook.com/preparpeteandfriends. But anybody that likes our site, we do a monthly drawing. I haven't been advertising those on the Facebook so much, but we do a monthly drawing, and any shows that we're at, usually in Virginia, that area, we do drawings of people that sign up for our mailing list. And my website isn't quite set up for the automatic sign up for email. But if someone signed up for the mailing list, we're going to send them a free copy of 15 important things to talk to your kid about regarding prepping and questions to ask. And,
that's fantastic.
And I want to provide something useful, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fantastic. I've got a friend whose wife is a kindergarten teacher, and I was talking to her about this a couple of weeks ago when I first saw the books, and she's like, "Can you get me some copies?" So I'll shoot you an email, and let's start a positive movement here of getting these books in every school across the country, every kindergarten class. I think it would just be fantastic. I'm kind of thinking, and I'd be happy to help in any way with this. I'm what's called a master gardener. I've taken many classes, and I actually work with a nonprofit that teaches gardening around the world. I don't work; I volunteer for them. But I'm thinking Prepper Pete grows a garden, something along that line, and my goodness, you could break down all these different skill sets into future books. That would be just awesome.
I'm sorry. Just so you know, the next book on the Prepper Pete series is actually called Prepper Pete's Be Prepared, and it's a Be Ready book for kids. So it goes into depth on some of the things that every kid should know, and I call it pages. They should know their phone number, their address, guardian contact info, email, and steps to take in an emergency, and then it goes through some of those different emergencies. So that one's going to be when you're talking about targeting the public school system, that's I call it my Chick-fil-A book for that very reason. But some of the other ones that we have, maybe we should definitely talk, because I've already got on the list of the possibility of doing a gardening book. And so, Minor Mole's Gold, talking about precious metals, or Bernie is he creates fires. But I think one of my favorite ones, I'd like to do Permaculture Pam from a gardening perspective. I'm a
cool
Ethan fan. And so, it doesn't have to be Prepper Pete in the name per se, but one of them that I've got coming up that I'm really kind of excited about, kind of goofy, is Radio Ricky Receives a Message, and it's a ham operator book.
Oh, very cool.
Basics of communication, cool. And Ricky is a pig, but he's a ham operator.
Okay.
So I like to have a little fun with that, and I'm always looking for ideas. If anybody goes to the website, there's a contact form, and there's actually a spot on there. If you suggest a book that becomes a topic, I'll contact you and discuss it. You get a free copy of the book. I'll mention it in a thank you or something like that.
Sure.
But I am always looking for ideas for Prepper Pete books in the future, and so I've had some requests for those.
I like the idea of standardizing the brand as far as using Prepper Pete's name. That's just my marketing side coming out. But I also like the catchiness of Frankie Starts a Fire, for example. So that's I'd love to discuss those type of things. Certainly will help in any way. Vin has a young child, and she's really digging the book. So that's proof to me right there that it works, and I think you're going to really do very, very well with this, and you'll have a good Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, your fourth book is called 12 Days of Prepper Christmas. Can you give us a little rundown on that, and what made you create that one?
So Prepper Pete's 12 Days of Prepper Christmas. And I'm actually kind of, your marketing side, I think, is spot on. And on the title, I actually call it Prepper Pete's Survival Sam Stocks Up. So I am trying to keep that branding from that perspective. But in the 12 Days of Prepper Christmas, the interesting thing on this one is actually based on a true story. And really this goes back to, it was about 4 years ago when I first really kind of got engaged with prepping. And it's when I kind of came out and said, hey, I think I really want to do this prepping thing seriously. And just so happens that my wife's sister and her husband have been doing it for quite some time. And they're like, oh, yeah, you need, they start going down this list of things. And James was very helpful from the gun perspective. He came down and helped me, tweak some of that stuff as well. But we did Christmas in 2012, and Julie, my sister-in-law, basically said she woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and said, "I've got it. I know what we need to get Kermit for Christmas." And so her and her children literally came out singing the 12 Days of Prep for Christmas, and they made this whole show of it, singing it to the song, the first day of Prep for Christmas, my true love gave to me a lug of balloons and bio-TP. And everything in the 12 Days of Prep for Christmas fits in a lug of balloon. So if you're looking for like the perfect gift for someone for Christmas, and you want to maybe spurn them on or kickstart them or kind of get them moving down the road, the 12 Days of Prep for Christmas, I think I priced it out. It costs you probably $150, $200 to do the whole thing. So it's not you could probably get it cheaper if you looked around, but it really is a way to kind of just cover a wide variety of things. And it has, seeds of growing and ready to eat meals and the things of water. And so it just kind of covers all the key aspects. Well, not all, but a lot of the key aspects of prepping. And so it was a hilariously fun time when they came out doing it. They could barely sing some of it because they were laughing so hard. But I literally just took that, turned it around, and that's what became the 12 Days of Prep for Christmas. And,
that is fantastic.
So I was creating. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're creating a bug-out bag, basically, for those, or a bug-in bag, for that matter.
Right.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So yeah, but that part I've really enjoyed. And so the next book that we're doing, the Prepper Peeps Be Prepared. I think we're going to be doing a campaign on Kickstarter to kick that off. And
okay, good.
It'll be a free book involved for anybody that wants to help with that. And we're really kind of doing it from the perspective, by using Kickstarter to raise the money, we can pre-plan a lot of the marketing costs. And I think it's going to poise it and the rest of the series for success in that regard. But Prepper Pete's primary statement is that some people prepare because they're afraid. We don't have to be afraid because we're prepared. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, preppers are a bunch of you're just trying to scare people." And no, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show people that if you learn critical thinking skills and you have car insurance like you mentioned, or life insurance or whatever, what do you have for a disaster? Do you think that the people after Hurricane Sandy or after Hurricane Katrina or after, any of these major things that have happened, even in the U.S., you really have to stop and think, how many of them do you think would be laughing if they had, like you said, even 30 days worth of food? People don't realize, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but people don't realize how fragile, the truck comes to Walmart or the grocery store every day. And they have about 2 or 3 days of supplies on hand. So if those trucks stopped coming, it would be we're 8 meals away from anarchy in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Been there, done that. And and at the time of Hurricane Sandy, I was actually living right up the coast near Albany, actually. And we didn't get hit as hard. But it was bad, but it wasn't anything like what they got hit with, hit down in the city with. Now, there's a couple that I know that did a Kickstarter campaign, and we can talk more about this off the air, that I will put you in touch with that did very well.
Thank you.
There's also, and they happen to be a medical doctor and the highest form of nurse that you can be. It's like above RN and also a registered midwife and just very, very educated people, very good people that I think they'll get into talking with you, and they do a lot of the expos also. So I'll put you in touch with them. Well, let's talk about now. You go to the expos. What do you got coming up in the future that you can tell our listeners about?
Well, so I'm actually a Navy chaplain still. I went off active duty
Thank you
several
for your
years
service,
ago.
by the way.
Thank you. It's a privilege of what I do as a chaplain because I actually get to serve those who serve, and so I'm grateful for it. Last year, actually about this time, I got a phone call, and I was recalled to active duty for 3 years, and so the Navy was gracious enough to pull me up from my roots in Virginia, where I was living with my chickens and getting ready to get some goats, and moved me to California.
Oh, wow.
So, and the San Joaquin Valley in Naval Air Station Lemoore there, and so I'm on staff at the chapel, and phenomenal opportunity, and I love it. It's a little busy though, and so I don't really have time to do a lot of shows like I was doing prior to the active duty aspect of it. But I have some close friends and some family members that are in the Maryland and Virginia area and Myrtle Beach area, and they have been going to various shows on my behalf to market the Prepper Pete brand. I think that's actually where Vincent ran into one of them, was a show that they had done. And so they've done gun shows in Hampton and Myrtle Beach, and coming up here tomorrow, I'm actually driving up. I know this will have already aired, but I'm driving up to Fisherville. There's a Prepper Expo there, and I'll be doing a book signing for that on Saturday. And so this is the first show. I did the very first show at a gun show, and that was back when all I had was Prepper Pete. So the first Prepper Pete book, and so it was kind of funny in that regard. But I think that Gun of a Shun goes over a lot better now when the other books are in the series.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know if you have anyone covering the St. Louis Expo next month. If I'm not mistaken, it's the 17th and 18th. But I'll contact you off the air about that. We're planning on going to that, and I know both Vince and I really feel it's important to get kids involved in this as soon as possible.
Right.
So we'll work something out where you get some representation there.
Well, that would be phenomenal. And I love working. There's some vendors out there that a Survival Food Plan. Greg and Barb Smith are phenomenal people. There's some friends of mine that I know from Chesapeake, and they've sold Prepper Pete at some of the different shows. They sell ready-made kits. You can customize your food order. They're featured in the Survivalist Handbook for that very reason. And
okay.
And they allow you to customize your bucket. So if you want 30 or 90 days worth of food, you can go in and say I want gluten-free, soy-free, nut-free. You can do all your allergens and everything and customize exactly what you want in the bucket, and they will build it for you on the spot and ship it to you. And so
okay, let's I definitely want to get their URL.
Gotcha.
Now, we actually interviewed a gentleman that created a software that you can customize your bug out bag. Just really amazing, awesome. Amazing. Every product has been tested. He tested every product, purchased over $10,000 worth of items for testing, and so I'll send you the link to that. Now, there's a number of people that we know that have podcasts. Is it okay if I pass your information on? And
would absolutely love it, and would be very appreciative as well.
Excellent. Okay, is there anything else you want to let our listeners know before we wrap this up, Kermit? Or
James, I'm grateful for every listener that's out there. I'm grateful for those who are willing to take the lead, not only in their own lives, but responsibly for their children. As a parent or as a chaplain, I teach parenting classes a lot of times. And some of that, the hardest thing to get parents to understand is, one, the example that you set is everything. You have to live what you want your kids to become. And
absolutely.
A lot of parents don't take that. And the second thing is that some parents either go too far and scare their kids when they don't need to, because our job is to protect them even from what we can, not shelter them, but protect them. And the second thing is that we should be teaching our kids critical thinking skills. And we should teach them how to address situations. We should be asking them about, scenarios. And I play games with my kids all the time. I don't tell them, okay, kids, we're going to learn how to build a fire. Because if you don't learn to build a fire, then you could be in a situation where you may freeze to death with hypothermia. And you don't want that to happen to you. Good night. You know, that's not quite how I would come across.
That's fun.
Yeah. So instead, what I'll do is, hey, we're gonna try to build a fire, and we're not going to use matches or a lighter. And it's like, ooh, now it becomes like a challenge. And then when we're done building the fire, we're going to make s'mores. And so you can teach them those skills and that thinking skills, you know, even from everything from driving to medical to, you know, what would you do if this happened? You know, I asked you know, every parent out there should ask their kid, no kidding, what's mommy and daddy's phone number? What's your address if you were lost and had to tell the police? Who would you go to if you got lost in a theme park? What would you do if you were lost in the woods? You know, it's things that we don't really think about, we don't want to think about, but you should be able to ask those questions to your kid and tell them, hey, look, I'm not asking these to scare you. I'm asking you these things so that if it happens, you can take a deep breath and you can focus on what are the three most important things. And they can go through you know, shelter, water, food, security. So I just want parents to be engaged with their kids. And that's why Prepper Pete was born in a lot of ways. And so if I can help them in any way, they're more than welcome to contact me through the website. And I'll do what I can. And if they buy the books, I am extremely grateful for it. If they want to buy 50 books on Amazon and give it to their friends for Christmas, I'm extremely grateful for that too. So
I think
every little bit counts.
These are the ultimate stocking stuffers, quite frankly. The series of 4, they're very, very reasonably priced, and this I think you're going to go a long way with this, Kermit, and it's just a matter of the logistics and the marketing. You've fulfilled a need in the market. And it's very, very well done. You know, to all the listeners, we highly recommend purchasing these books for your children, your friends' children, your grandchildren, and some people your great-great-grandchildren. So it can literally save their lives in the future, and you'll be able to go to bed with peace of mind, knowing that your children and grandchildren, you know, have some knowledge about preparedness. And again, you know, the key thing is making it fun for the kids. So, Kermit, I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to have you on the show, and I will actually give you a call offline here in a few minutes with some ideas that I have.
Awesome.
And we definitely want to have you back on the show again, and definitely each book that you do, we want you on the show, and I'll give you a call here in a few minutes, and when we'll also send you the link to the podcast, and please, you know, spread that via Facebook, and of course we will also. Everybody, we've been talking with Kermit from PrepperPeteandFriends.com. Again, that's PrepperPeteandFriends.com. This is James from Disaster Survival Network, and we greatly appreciate you listening, and we will talk to you all soon. Happy prepping, everyone.